Hello, my name is Joshua. Welcome to our series on artificial intelligence. In this series, we're going to talk about large language models, ChatGPT, and the various products that are coming to market built on top of this technology. The series is primarily aimed for attorneys, judges, and legal staff who need to quickly get up to speed about artificial intelligence and understand how this technology is shaping the future of legal practice. We're going to demystify how products like ChatGPT work. What is ChatGPT? Where does it come from? Well, ChatGPT is published by a company called OpenAI. OpenAI was founded in 2015 as a research lab and a nonprofit. ChatGPT is an offering that's built on top of the GPT architecture. It's a chatbot, and it's been fine-tuned through supervised reinforcement and self-reinforcement learning techniques. There are two ways to train these large language models. One, you could have a person that actually sits there and you put in the input into the model, it gives you an output, and then the person says, this is a good result and here's why, or this is a bad result and here's why. As a side note, when you hear people talk about a bias in the software, it's because of the human element of having somebody doing this supervised tuning or alignment process. As we all know, if you're a human and you're jumping in and you're saying that something is good or something is bad, well, no matter how much you are trying to be unbiased, we're all going to bring with us some element of bias into that tuning and alignment process, right? Because we only have our own life experiences and perspective to draw on. The other thing is that these models are self-reinforcing. So these models can actually learn from themselves. And that's a very helpful feature because even if you were to train on literally every book that's ever been published, that still would only represent a tiny fraction of the possible inputs and scenarios that these models would have to contend with. So you need a way for these models to learn on their own. So ChatGPT has widely been considered a huge breakthrough for artificial intelligence. There are some people who have definitely overhyped it. I think there are a lot of people who have undersold it. But there's no doubt that the world is a different place and has changed as a result of OpenAI releasing this technology. Now there is also a for-profit branch of the company, and if I'm getting this right, I believe the for-profit branch can earn up to 100% of the investments that are made in the nonprofit part of the branch. So then the money has to cycle back and be reinvested back in the nonprofit. It's a very interesting hybrid structure for OpenAI where they have this nonprofit branch, they have a for-profit branch, and something to note here is that running a technology like ChatGPT is insanely expensive. I don't know for sure that these numbers have been well substantiated, but there's been a widely repeated rumor that ChatGPT and OpenAI are burning through as much as $700,000 per day running ChatGPT. Now, again, I'm not sure if that's completely accurate, but it wouldn't surprise me if this were true given the electricity, the hardware, and just the cost of the staff that it takes to run an LLM like ChatGPT at scale. So Microsoft invested $10 billion in OpenAI. $1 billion of that was a cash infusion. The other $9 billion were for credits for OpenAI to use their hardware and software to make running their LLMs possible. There have also been iterations of ChatGPT before. So there was GPT-2 in 2019, 3 was in 2020, and then at the start of the public ChatGPT application, there was 3, and then in March of 2023, they released GPT-4. As you might imagine, there are already whispers of OpenAI working on GPT-5, and we recently saw them file a trademark for that technology. So the technology's been around for a while. What was the huge breakthrough between the earlier iterations of GPT and GPT-3 and GPT-4? The main takeaway here is that the scale and the size of how they're using the technology has dramatically increased. Also, the supervision and the alignment, or sometimes it's called the tuning process, has also greatly increased to produce better results, notably, especially with GPT-4. ChatGPT has 175 billion parameters. There are 96 decoder layers, and it's been trained on 501 billion tokens. Now, tokens aren't exactly synonymous with words, but for our purposes, you can think of them as being approximately similar to words. The sources that ChatGPT has trained on includes Wikipedia, most of the books that have been digitized and published and put online, and the Common Crawl. They're a nonprofit organization. Essentially, they try and capture as much of the internet as possible, anything that's been put on the public. So social media, blogs, You name it, if it's a public web page, they try and save and put that in the database. In other words, OpenAI basically took as much of the internet as they possibly could through 2001, and they used that information to train ChatGPT on as large of a scale as they could possibly afford to do. Now, maybe this is where my lack of expert credentials affect my perspective, but I think that there's something almost mystical about how when you add a huge amount more information and a huge amount more processing, there's a really big jump in the output that you start getting, and it starts to be much more useful than if you're doing it in this very simplistic way. Now, I've already mentioned Microsoft's investment in OpenAI, but just to give you a sense of scale, these are some of the numbers that I saw published. So Microsoft had 285,000 CPU cores, they had 10,000 GPUs, 400 gigabyte per second networks for each GPU server. In other words, running something like this isn't just very hardware intensive, it's very expensive just overall. Another reason I think that we made such a quick jump in ChatGPT is because there's really only a few companies and governments in the world that even have the hardware to be able to run something like this at scale. So the tipping point in this technology required that there had to be some kind of a partnership between an organization like OpenAI and another organization like Microsoft to be able to do any of this at scale. All right, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this conversation, please tune in for the next one. We're going to dive into talking about training ChatGPT. We'll demystify what does it mean when we're talking about tokens and predictions and all that other stuff. And we'll talk about how ChatGPT learns and functions. Once again, my name is Joshua Weaver. I'm the director of the Texas Opportunity and Justice Incubator, or TOJI for short. TOJI is a flagship program of the State Bar of Texas where we help attorneys launch and develop sustainable law practices serving underserved communities. This video was also brought to you in collaboration with the Texas Bar Practice. If you'd like to learn more about either TOJI or Texas Bar Practice, you can visit us at txoji.com or texasbarpractice.com. Thanks for watching, and tune in for the next one.